I was just watching a video here on YouTube on adult film parodies. I'm gonna get to something in a couple of minutes here, but anyway, yeah, there are people that will make videos of. They'll take the major movies like Star Wars back in the '70s, or like the Brady Bunch. I'm gonna get the Brady Bunch in a second here also, but anyway, they'll take these major TV shows and movies and make an adult film version of that. Now, the Brady Bunch, I really don't want to get into gory details of the video that I watched. It was so interesting, though. But anyway, now in real life, the two actors that played the middle kids, you can look this up. It's documented fact. Back well, they're older adults now, but back when the show was on, the two middle kids, they weren't even stepbrother and sister. They were just two actors on a TV show. They apparently had something going on for a very short period of time. Don't remember their names, but you can look that up. That's some. But anyway, there's these adult film parodies, and they can take and just put on the title, the beginning credits of the video, that this is just a parody, had nothing to do with the original production. They can get around any copyright infringement type things. They can kind of get around that. Now, let me cover something that happened to me, or that this is back when they had their video rental stores, which goes back quite a ways, because for a long time you could they had the Redbox around for a while. And I don't think Redbox is even around anymore, because everything is pretty much a digital download if you want to watch something, or you can just no, I've never had a pay service, but you can just tell them what you want to watch and then let you watch it if you want to pay a certain amount for it. Pretty much a digital download. But anyway, back in the days when they had this is what I call a little mom and pop video rental place. Now, I had dropped a friend of mine off at the doctor's office. Now, again, this was many years ago. If I had a smartphone back then with YouTube on there, I'd been in the office sitting watching YouTube videos. But I said this was long before anybody had smartphones or anything like that. So I dropped my friend off, and I said, well, there's a video place next door. I'm just going to wander through there for a while and see what they got. So I walked in the store, just went around and saw the major movies, major stuff out on DVDs. I don't know if Blu-ray was even out then, because this has been a while ago. And they had a lot of VHS tapes back in there, which gives you an idea how long ago this was. But anyway, I was just more kidding with the lady at the counter. I said, ma'am, do you have any adult entertainment? And I expected something out of her like, sir, this is a family store. We don't do that. But instead, she handed me a key, and she pointed to, apparently there's quite a number of stores like this, because I've heard other people talk about this also. But she handed me a key. She pointed to a locked door at the back of the store, and she said, sir, it's behind that door. So I said, okay. I'd ask her. So I opened the door, went back, opened the door, and sure enough, this was loaded with all kind of adult. It was one or two of the names that I recognized. A lot of the stuff was in Spanish. I know enough of the Spanish, that I can, figure out what. Well, if you learn a language, especially if you grow up, well, like I did, grow up in the Southwest, you learn the dirty words first. That's what, in school you do, you learn all those words. But anyway, because all the kids are speaking them. But anyway, I was going through there, and it was kind of interesting. But now, a guy had told me this story one time, and I thought this guy was BSing with me. And I don't want to get into great details, because I'm sure there's a kid or two watching my videos. Trying to describe this to stay kid friendly. He was talking about these shows that have Mexico. Let's say it would involve a lady with a horse or a lady with a donkey. I'll say it that way. And there were these videos like that in there. And I don't know how legal that was, but these were all locked up where kids couldn't get to them. And I had actually downloaded one. And again, I think this was in French. I think the lady was speaking French. And let's say it was a lady with a horse. Again, I don't want to get into graphic details. I don't know how legal that is. But it was there. But anyway, I didn't read anything. Just saw what was back there. And after I'd wandered around a little bit, my friend had got down to the doctor, and we went home. Now, today, you can download as much or more than you care to watch off the torrent sites. If anybody's interested, search, do like a Google or a Dogpile or a start page search on torrent sites. These places all come up. Now, most of my favorite torrent sites have been shut down. The government will come in and shut them down because they don't like file sharing. So most of these places are gone. There's one or two places that are still up, or that have they change their name a little bit and come back up. So if you're interested, now I've got a lot of old John Holmes stuff. If somebody is of legal age and wants John Holmes, you have me a thumb drive and tell me you want some of my adult entertainment. Tell me what you want, and I'll put it on the thumb drive for you. Okay. No, yeah. Oh, no, that's the last. Before I say goodbye, last thing I want to cover. Dog. Still left 8 right now. I've got to do a job here a little bit later. I got to wait for the night to get home. Got to do a job. I probably won't make it down today, but figure I've already made enough to pay the bills. I've got a little bit of gas money, so there's about 4 or 5 places I'm going to hit up. I need to get back down to Monument Hill, make another video from Monument Hill. Now I've got 4 or 5 down there. I'm going to get PIR. I want to get a nice video of PIR before they got have a NASCAR race down there sometime toward the end of March. Just kind of cover that. I'll probably do one separate and just label it PIR. Now there's another hill. I don't think this one has a name. This one is just right north of Estrella Park. I think this little hill is part of the range. Now it's kind of hard to park down there and get out of the road, so I'm going to have a friend of mine watch my pickup. I'm going to park about a quarter of a mile away and then walk up this hill, walk up here and walk down. Now, I want to get down to where a restaurant was, the old Cow Puncher. Now, if you're searching my videos, you'll find Cow Puncher. But I wanted to get down there ever since Adam the Woo had passed on. Now, Adam the Woo had come through there. Now, Adam the Woo, when he covered Cow Puncher, well, not quite, but I've covered this quite a number of times. Adam the Woo had come through there and got just a sign. The sign's the only thing left. It's just like about a 3 or 4 acre plot of bare land with some half there concrete slabs. Adam the Woo had saw the sign, couldn't interpret it, and he had posted it in one of his videos. He's going like, "What's this about?" So I said, I've actually made a video for Adam the Woo. Titling it Cow Puncher for Adam the Woo. But I need to get down there and then make another video for Adam the Woo in tribute to Adam the Woo. And I want to get down to down into downtown Buckeye, the Hobo Joe statue. Now Adam the Woo had covered Hobo Joe 2 or 3 times, when he'd gone through there. Because there's 2 different stories on Hobo Joe. Now, one is that Hobo Joe was an art project created by someone. He's a fiberglass statue, maybe 20 feet high, something like that. If you search on Google Maps, Hobo Joe, all the information will come up on Google Maps. And now the one story is that Hobo Joe was created as an art project for, by someone that worked for Walt Disney. Adam the Woo was a big, big Disney fan. That's the reason Adam the Woo was interested. Now, there's another story that Hobo Joe was an advertising. There was a chain of restaurants called Hobo Joe. Like Bob's Big Boy has that statue out in front. If you remember back in the old days when the Bob's Big Boy would have his hand out, there'd be a big old gas flame. Where they would be advertising their gas fire, their gas char burgers, something like that. But they stopped that back in the 70s. But anyway, another theory that Hobo Joe was advertising sign for there's 6 of these things, and this was the only one left. I'm going to get to that when I get down there. But I want to get down there and do a couple of tribute videos for Adam the Woo and just label them as tribute videos. Now, there's handful of places in downtown Buckeye, not the newer city of Buckeye, but some of the older places that you can see some older homes. Now, there used to be quite a number of real neat homes right here in Avondale, Goodyear area. Now, according to my father, the old part of Goodyear was housing. We've got Goodyear. What is the Goodyear Airport now? But that was a Navy base. Back during World War II, and it was some of the old part of Goodyear was built as housing for some of the employees, some of the workers. But these houses, there used to be some. I remember as growing up as a kid, there used to be some homes that you could tell they were old. They were very, very old. But a lot of these houses, a lot of the buildings, they're still there, but they've just been modernized where they don't look as neat, as cool as they did 50 years ago. Now, there's a few places in the old part of Buckeye. Now, I'll probably just wander around there. I'm talking like Valencia, the north part of Buckeye they call Valencia. I'm going to cover a story in Valencia in a second here because there's another cool story. But anyway, I want to see what that looks like. If I think it's interesting, I'll If they look like people have modern, I mean, if you live there and want to modernize your house, that's it's your house. You can do what you want. But to me, they don't look as cool as they did, when I first saw them many years ago. But anyway, now my father had there was a friend of his had just bought a house down in oh the in Estrella. Part of Goodyear is down in the Estrella Mountain Range, just east of the Estrella Mountain Range. Now there was a guy, it was Keating. He'd gotten in serious trouble, for banking fraud. I don't know. You can look up Keating. He's dead. He's been dead for many years, but he'd gotten some type of financial problems. I don't know exactly what he did. He'd actually bribed about 5 senators, and I got in trouble for that. These senators got in trouble for that too. If you remember, they call them like the Keating Five, if you remember that. But anyway, this was just before this has happened. This had happened with Keating. Was Charlie Keating? I think that's his name. But anyway, this guy had bought a house. The streets were there. The lights were in there, but they hadn't built any houses yet. And my father looked at it. He goes, "You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Valencia." And my father had grew up in. Well, he didn't grow up in Buckeye, but he went to Buckeye High School when back in the 30s. But anyway, that part of Buckeye, just before the Depression hit in 1929. Maybe the late 1920s, they had built that northern part of Buckeye. They called Valencia. They'd put the streets in. They'd put the lights in. But right after they'd done that, the Depression hit. It was many years before people had any money to build anything. And my father had talked about this, down here, down there in the Goodyear when Keating had laid the streets in and put the lights in, and then he got hit with financial trouble. This was just before Keating got in trouble. My father looked at that and he goes, "This reminds me of Valencia." I just thought that was a cool story. If I find anything interesting down in Buckeye besides Hobo Joe, I'll put it here on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll make it down in a couple of days because I've got enough spare gas money to make it down there and video these. Okay, love y'all. Ciao. Bye. Ivá que Deus.